Hi, welcome back to my Substack. Today I'm talking about something that you've probably heard a lot about and something that I talk about often with the people that I work with one on one and with my kids, probably at nauseum, and that is fiber. So I wrote a blog post and today I'm going to read it to you. All right. So I still remember my college professor telling us fiber adds bulk to your stool. I thought it was hilarious because I was 18 and I still was very immature. And let's face it, I still am pretty immature and I still think it's very funny. It is true that fiber adds bulk to your stool, especially that insoluble kind that doesn't dissolve in water. So it adds bulk to your stool to help you go to the bathroom. So it's good for solid bowel movements. But of course, that can't be all that fiber is good for, right? Right. It's only the very, very beginning. In fact, I dedicate an entire 10 pages in the book I wrote to fiber and its benefits. And today I'm going to share part of that content with you. All right, let's start with the very beginning. What on earth is fiber? We know it adds bulk to our stool, but what is it? Fiber, sugar, and added sugar are all types of carbohydrates. So the broad name is carbohydrates. Within that is fiber, sugar, and added sugar. Also starch, but that doesn't show up on a food label. So, what makes fiber unique is that it's non digestible and therefore passes through our small intestine without being broken down into sugar or glucose. Fiber ends its journey fully intact in our large intestine or colon, where it either gets fermented and used as fuel for the cells in our gut, or it, you guessed it, adds bulk to our stool and helps us pass a bowel movement. There are two main types of fiber: insoluble and soluble. Insoluble fiber is the type that is likely to add bulk to your stool. How many times can I say that today? And help with regular bowel movements, as it does not dissolve in water, as I said previously. Some sources of insoluble fiber include whole wheat flour, wheat bran, nuts, beans, and vegetables such as cauliflower, green beans, and potatoes. These same foods also contain some soluble fiber. Just an FYI, many foods contain both types of fiber. So, soluble fiber dissolves in water and is best for slowing digestion to help keep us full, in addition to reducing blood sugar, total cholesterol, and improving gut health. Some good sources of soluble fiber include oats, barley, avocados, bananas, almonds, and psyllium. I'll get to the importance of water here in a bit. Most plant foods contain both types of fiber, as I said. So, why on earth is fiber so important? Fiber is turning out to be more important for the health of our gut, our second brain and the hub of our immune system, than anyone ever imagined. Prebiotics, a buzzword you may be familiar with, are a type of fiber too, specifically like a subtype of soluble fiber. So prebiotics act as food for probiotics, the beneficial gut bacteria. Eating more foods with fiber, specifically soluble prebiotic fiber, increases the production of short chain fatty acids, which are used by the gut as a source of energy. These short chain fatty acids, or SCFAs for short, play crucial regulatory roles in immunological processes. Whew, that's a word. Maintenance of intestinal barriers and suppression of inflammation and carcinogenesis, or cancer development, and have been proven beneficial for host or human health. If we aren't feeding our microbiome, the microorganisms that live in our bodies, with fiber, the microbes will use our intestinal mucosal lining instead. So, if we're not getting enough fiber, the microbes in our gut, those good microbes, will actually consume our gut lining to stay alive. Not good. A note about prebiotics: some people find that they cause more discomfort, gas, and bloating compared to other fibers. I raise my hand because I talk about it often. This is me. This is especially true with prebiotics added to foods such as inulin, chicory root, and fructooligosaccharides, also known as FOS for short, and oligofructose. These are all listed on ingredients, so just take be aware and look out for those sources of prebiotics. They might just cause some more digestion issues, especially at first. This really does make sense because if you think about it, they are food for that good bacteria. They feed that good bacteria. And when bacteria eat, they produce gas as a byproduct. Some of us are more sensitive to this gas. So start slowly if you decide you want to add more prebiotics to your diet. They are very good for us, but our bodies may need some time to adjust. All right. Just a footnote on that. Research does suggest that a daily tolerance of about 5 grams of fiber from FOS and oligofructose and up to 10 grams of fiber from chicory root or inulin. So if you're looking at a food label, you can generally figure out about how many grams of each of those prebiotics are in the product. So again, the tolerance is about 5 grams or 10 grams, depending on the type of prebiotic. All this information is in my book if you're very confused and want some more details. All right. Or you can also reach out to me anytime. So how much fiber do we need? Okay, so ancestral humans might have consumed as much as, what do you think? 100 grams of fiber daily. No paleo diet I've ever heard of includes that much fiber. Americans are now not getting enough fiber, as you can imagine, with men averaging 18 grams per day and women 15 grams. That's generally because we just eat less as women. We don't need as much as men do, so we're getting less fiber. About 4% of men and 12% of women get enough fiber. So how can we increase our fiber intake? Consider that fiber is found in plants, and plant foods are vegetables, fruits, grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. Eating more plant foods will automatically increase your fiber intake. The Mediterranean diet is high in fiber-containing foods. Evidence indicates that the 5 most important adaptations induced by the Mediterranean diet pattern are its lipid-lowering effects, protection against oxidative stress and inflammation, modification of hormones and growth factors involved in cancer development, and gut microbiota mediated production of metabolites that influence metabolic health. Whew. So while fiber isn't the only nutrient lent to these positive outcomes, it certainly plays a role and is very important. One study examined, this is a really big one, and it's the association between fiber intake and all-cause mortality, and found a 10% reduction in risk per 10 grams of fiber increase per day. Let me repeat that. One study examined the association between fiber intake and all-cause mortality and found a 10% reduction in risk in all-cause mortality for every 10 grams of fiber added to your diet per day. Pass me the beans, please. All right. So where can we find fiber? Okay, I've told you actually how much. Actually, I didn't even tell you how much we need. We need about 25 for women and 30 for men. Actually 35 for men. So again, men are getting about 18. They need about 35. Women are getting on average 15 grams per day. We need about 25 grams per day. So where can we find fiber? In general, we can reach our minimum fiber goals by eating the following: a total of 2 to 3 cups of vegetables or fruits, 2 to 3 ounces of a hearty whole grain such as wild rice, quinoa, or whole wheat bread, and a handful of nuts such as almonds, peanuts, or walnuts each day. The best sources of fiber are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and beans or legumes. Let's talk about products with added fiber, such as certain nutrition bars, cereals, and now even yogurt with fiber. For these products, fiber has been isolated from a plant and added to the product to boost the nutrition. These products are fine and may contribute to your daily fiber intake, but they absolutely do not replace the fiber you get from whole plant foods. It's the components of the whole plant food that provide more than just fiber. They also include antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and other chemicals that work synergistically to enhance the benefits of those foods. So the benefit is not just in the fiber. So when we're eating products with isolated fibers in it to get our total fiber, we're missing out on the other nutrients from those other foods that actually have natural sources of fiber. Those other foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, etc., work together in ways that science hasn't even completely figured out. So all the nutrients found in those foods, science hasn't even discovered all those nutrients and how they work synergistically together to keep us healthy. So we aren't getting the benefit from those nutrients when we eat chips now with added fiber. I could go on a whole tangent about protein, same idea, but I'll stick with fiber. So, what about fiber supplements? I do recommend a fiber supplement for most people to supplement their other fiber sources. I have a particular favorite supplement, which I talk about in my book. It is called Sun Fiber. I'll throw that out there. It provides 6 grams of fiber, so it's not providing the bulk or the majority of your fiber. It's providing, about 1/4 of your total fiber. And I still very much promote getting the other parts of your fiber, that 25 grams for women, 35 roughly for men, from foods like fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and whole grains. So yeah, if you're considering working towards increasing your fiber intake, great. There's just a couple things to keep in mind. When increasing your fiber intake, it's important that you do it slowly, especially if your intake has been extremely low. The reason is that fiber, when increased too quickly, can actually cause gastrointestinal upset, which you would think shouldn't be the opposite. But no, if you add too much fiber too fast, it can cause major issues, specifically constipation. In the long term, of course, your gut will thank you for the additional fiber, but in the short term, your gut might be thinking, whoa, we aren't used to this. Especially when adding a fiber supplement, I always suggest starting with half a dose. When it comes to food, just be mindful of being gradual. Don't go out and buy a bunch of food with added fiber. Start slow. And also consider a SMART goal. Create something like, I will add 1 more serving of fruit per day, or I will add beans to my daily my daily menu per each day, or I will include 2 servings of beans each week. Whatever it is, come up with your own SMART goal. I also want to be very clear, speaking of water, if you are going to make an effort to add more fiber, try to include a little bit more water along with that, because if you're adding more fiber without fluid, that can also exacerbate symptoms like constipation. So very important to stay hydrated. Okay, I think that's about all I was going to share today. To wrap up this session, I just really want to, or this section of my book, I really want to iterate that fiber is important. It's important for most. It's more important than most other things that we fret about when it comes to our health and well-being. I truly believe that we are missing the mark when it comes to fiber, and we are not talking about it enough. By increasing our fiber, we are automatically consuming more plant foods, such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, which is one of the best things we can do for our bodies to prevent disease. When we fill our diet with mostly plant foods, there won't be much room for more processed foods. Nutrition is a science, and one that goes back and forth. Some foods are healthy one day and bad for us the next. Plants, like whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, fruits, and vegetables, will always be good for us and nutrient dense. Fiber, while not very sexy, is the puzzle piece that many of us are missing. All right, years ago, I posted a recipe on my website, and I'm going to include this in today's Substack. There's a picture for how to use all those leftover crumbly granolas at the bottom of the bag. I do realize a lot of the sugar ends up down there, but I get so aggravated when I buy a bag of granola and at the end, there's all these little pieces left. So I generally will add a little bit more oats to that, and then I'll add some almond butter or peanut butter, maybe some chia seeds, some nuts, whatever I want to throw in there. And I just make my own little protein/fiber balls, or bites, if you want to call it that, put it in the fridge, eat them throughout the week. And that way you're not wasting all that delicious granola crumble at the end of the bat. All right, thanks so much for listening. I've included the link to my book if you're interested in reading more about fiber. Sometimes I know for me, I'm much, much better at reading and taking in information than listening to someone speak. I am not a great listener. I'm a great reader. So if you'd rather read the information, highlight it, learn from it, and read all the footnotes I have in that book and all the resources that I have cited, I encourage you to purchase my book. All right, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time.